When Daniel stopped behind the grocery store to toss some cardboard boxes, he never expected to witness something that would freeze him in place. A tiny girl, no more than 7, stood on her tiptoes digging through a dumpster, her thin arms trembling from cold and fear. She kept glancing around as if expecting someone to yell at her. Daniel watched her pull out a half-eaten sandwich, wipe it with her sleeve, and hug it close like it was treasure. Something inside him twisted. This wasn't just a hungry child. There was desperation in her eyes, a kind of fear he recognized from his own difficult childhood. He stepped closer, careful not to scare her, but she flinched the moment his boots scraped the pavement. "It's okay," Daniel said softly, raising his empty hands. But the girl jumped down from the crate like a startled kitten and backed away, food clutched to her chest. Up close, Daniel noticed the dirt on her cheeks, her tangled hair, and clothes that looked like they hadn't been washed in weeks. Still, her posture held something strangely refined, like she'd been taught to sit straight and speak politely once upon a time. She wasn't like the street kids he occasionally saw. Something was off. He tried again. "Are you hungry? I can get you something warm from inside." The girl hesitated, her lips trembling as if deciding whether he was danger or safety. Finally she whispered, "I'm not supposed to talk to strangers." Daniel nodded gently. "That's a good rule. But are you all alone?" Her eyes flickered with panic, and she glanced behind her as if someone might appear any second. "I have to hide," she whispered. "They're looking for me." Daniel frowned. "Who? Parents? Kidnappers? The authorities?" Her fear was too deep to ignore, yet too complex to understand. Before he could ask anything more, she turned and bolted toward the alley. Daniel cursed under his breath and followed, not to chase, but to make sure she didn't run into danger. The alley was dark and twisted, with broken fences and old stairways leading to abandoned lofts. When he finally spotted her again, she was crouched behind a dumpster, hugging her knees, shaking violently. "I won't take you anywhere," Daniel promised, approaching slowly. "Just talk to me." The girl blinked back tears. "If they find me, they'll send me back. I don't want to go back." Her words hit him harder than any accusation. Daniel removed his jacket and gently draped it over her shoulders. To his surprise, the girl didn't resist. She buried her face in the collar as if it were the first warm thing she'd touched in days. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She hesitated, biting her lip. "Lila, but I'm not allowed to say the rest." That made Daniel pause. Most runaway kids didn't hide their last names unless there was a reason. "Lila is a beautiful name," he said. "Are you running from home?" She shook her head immediately. "From the big house. From people in suits. From the woman who shouts." The description sent a chill through Daniel. He'd seen the news for the past week. Search bulletins everywhere, urgent broadcasts, flashing headlines. A missing heiress. A little girl with dark curls and bright eyes, last seen at a grand estate. Police suspected kidnapping. The nation was frantic. Daniel hadn't paid much attention then, but now, he looked at Lila again. The resemblance was striking. He swallowed hard. "Lila, have you ever been on TV?" The girl's eyes widened, and she dropped the sandwich. "I told you, people are looking for me. If they find me, they'll lock me in again." Daniel's heart pounded as the puzzle pieces fell into place. The heiress wasn't kidnapped, she had run away. But why would a wealthy child escape a mansion, live on the streets, and dig through trash for food? "Were you hurt?" he asked, barely above a whisper. Lila flinched, nodding slightly. "They didn't like when I cried," she said. "They didn't like when I asked for my mom. They said good girls stay quiet." Daniel clenched his jaw so hard it hurt. The reports had said the girl's mother died months ago. Maybe her world had fallen apart. Maybe the people meant to protect her failed. "You're safe now," Daniel said, though he wasn't sure how. If he took her straight to the authorities, she would be returned to the same people she clearly feared. If he kept her, he'd risk being accused of hiding a missing heiress. He needed another way, a safer one. "Do you trust me a little?" he asked. Lila looked up with uncertain hope. "Maybe," she whispered. Her voice cracked as she added, "You didn't yell." Tears flooded his chest before they reached hers. "I won't," he promised. "Ever." She let out a breath she'd been holding for days. Daniel guided her to his truck, letting her choose whether to sit inside or beside the open door. She chose the open door, clutching his jacket tightly. He bought warm soup and bread from the store and let her eat slowly, savoring every bite as if she feared it might be taken from her. "Lila," he said gently as she ate, "do you remember anyone from the big house who was kind to you?" She shook her head. "They called me, the girl. Never my name." Daniel felt his stomach twist again. A child with a title but no love, what kind of home was that? As the evening shadows lengthened, Daniel called his friend Maya, a social worker known for exposing corrupt guardians. Maya arrived fast, her eyes widening the moment she saw Lila. "Daniel, she looks exactly like." Daniel cut her off with a nod. Lila hid behind him, trembling. Maya kneeled carefully and spoke in a soft, melodic tone. "Hi, sweetheart, you're safe. No one is going to take you anywhere you don't want to go." Lila peeked out but didn't step closer. Daniel could see her battling fear and longing for comfort at the same time. Maya offered a small stuffed rabbit she kept in her car for emergencies. Lila stared at it as though it were a dream she didn't believe she deserved. Finally, she reached out and took it, hugging it with the same fierce desperation she had given the sandwich. "Do you want to tell us what happened?" Maya asked. Lila nodded but didn't speak yet. Daniel sat with her, letting her lean against him while she gathered courage. Slowly, the truth spilled out. Her aunt, the estate's new guardian, had taken control after her mother's death, locking Lila away in a cold room most nights. "I wasn't allowed to touch anything," Lila whispered. "I wasn't allowed to go outside. They said I would ruin everything. I had to stay until they told me to smile for the lawyers." Maya's face hardened, rage dancing in her eyes. Daniel felt his own blood boil. Lila continued, voice trembling. "When the guard fell asleep, I climbed out the window. I just wanted to find a place where people talk gently." Daniel wrapped an arm around her shoulder, careful but steady. "You found it," he said. She closed her eyes, releasing a long, exhausted sigh. Maya called a trusted judge she'd worked with before, explaining the emergency. The judge insisted they bring Lila to a safe house instead of the police station to avoid her being automatically returned to the corrupt guardian. Lila listened silently, gripping Daniel's sleeve. "Will they take me back?" she asked. Maya shook her head. "Not if the truth comes out. And we'll make sure it does." Daniel helped Lila into his truck gently, letting her choose where to sit. She picked the seat beside him, holding the rabbit like a lifeline. During the drive, Lila began to open up more, asking small questions. Why does the sky turn purple at night? Do people always smile at grocery stores? Is it okay to sit in car seats? Daniel answered each one patiently, realizing how sheltered and controlled her life had been. "You can ask anything," he told her. "Nothing is wrong with being curious." Lila smiled for the first time, a small, fragile smile, but real. "No one ever said that to me," she whispered. Daniel felt something in his chest crack open. When they arrived at the safe house, a warm-lit cottage run by retired foster volunteers, Lila hesitated at the door. "Will they shout?" she asked. "No," Daniel assured her. "They bake cookies." That made her blink in disbelief. Inside, Mrs. Harlow, an elderly woman with silver curls, knelt down and greeted Lila with the gentlest voice Daniel had ever heard. Lila froze, overwhelmed by the kindness. Mrs. Harlow didn't approach, she simply offered a soft blanket and waited. Slowly, Lila walked forward and accepted it, eyes brimming. With Lila settled, Maya and Daniel stepped outside to discuss the next steps. Maya explained the plan. Gather evidence, alert the judge, send police to the estate, and publicize the truth about Lila's escape. If her aunt tries anything, Maya said, she'll be facing charges. Daniel nodded, but worry tugged at him. She's terrified. We need to make sure she never ends up in that house again. Maya placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we fight for her. Daniel had never felt more determined. Over the next hours, Lila slowly warmed to the safe house's gentle environment. She discovered shelves of picture books, soft pillows, and warm tea. She shyly asked if she was allowed to touch them. Mrs. Harlow assured her she could touch anything she liked. Lila traced her fingers over the book covers like they were priceless treasures. Daniel watched from the doorway, heart swelling. She's just a kid, he murmured. A kid who finally gets to breathe. Maya nodded beside him, scribbling notes for the case. That night, Daniel prepared to leave, but Lila panicked when she saw him step toward the door. "You're not leaving forever, right?" she asked urgently. Daniel crouched down to her level. "Never forever," he said. "I'll be here tomorrow, and the day after, and as long as you want me to visit." Lila exhaled shakily. "Okay." She let him tuck the blanket around her shoulders. "Good night, Lila," he whispered. "You're safe." She smiled again, tired, but trusting. The next morning, news exploded everywhere. The missing heiress had been found, but not kidnapped. She had escaped. The story spread like wildfire. Reports of emotional abuse, negligence, cold rooms, and forged documents. Maya had released testimonies anonymously, protecting Lila. Daniel watched the news with clenched fists. The aunt was furious, claiming lies, demanding Lila back. But the judge issued an emergency order prohibiting any contact until a full investigation. The tide was turning. When Daniel visited Lila that afternoon, she ran to him and hugged him tightly. "They didn't find me, right?" she asked. "Only the good people know where you are," he said. Lila finally relaxed, holding his hand. She showed him the picture book she'd picked out. "Can you read this with me?" Daniel smiled. "I'd love to." They sat on the couch, her head resting on his arm as he read aloud. Mrs. Harlow watched from the kitchen, smiling softly at the rare innocence returning to Lila's face. Over the next days, the investigation intensified. Workers from the estate admitted the aunt's cruelty. Neighbors recalled hearing the child cry at night. Security footage showed guards restricting her movements. The truth painted a horrifying picture. Lila stayed at the safe house, slowly learning to trust warmth, freedom, and gentle voices. Daniel visited daily, bringing coloring books and fruit. Snacks. Lila began to laugh. Small bursts at first, then full giggles that warmed every room she entered. One afternoon, Lila sat beside Daniel, drawing. "Do you think my mom would be proud of me for running away?" she asked. Daniel looked at her carefully. "Your mom would be proud of you for surviving," he said. "For being brave enough to seek safety. For trusting new people." Lila nodded thoughtfully, drawing a small house with flowers. "This is the place I want to live," she said. Daniel realized it looked exactly like the safe house. When the court hearing arrived, Lila stayed in another room while Maya presented evidence. Daniel waited with her, holding her hand tightly. The judge reviewed every detail: the neglect, the psychological harm, the forged medical papers used to isolate her. It became clear that the aunt's intentions were financial, not protective. When the judge ruled that Lila would not return to the aunt and would instead be placed under protective guardianship, Daniel felt tears well up. Lila didn't understand everything, but she felt the relief. After the hearing, Lila raced into Daniel's arms. "Did we win?" she whispered. Daniel smiled, lifting her gently. "We did. You're free now." Lila buried her face in his shoulder, sobbing quietly, not from fear this time, but from freedom. Maya blinked away tears herself. "This little girl is stronger than most adults," she murmured. The safe house became Lila's temporary home while long-term arrangements were discussed. But one thing became clear: she wanted Daniel in her life. "Can you be my friend forever?" she asked one evening. Daniel smiled softly. "Forever sounds perfect to me." Lila squeezed his hand. No one has ever stayed before. Daniel's heart ached, but he promised himself he would never allow her to feel abandoned again. Weeks passed, and Lila flourished. She learned to ride a bicycle, baked cookies with Mrs. Harlow, and painted pictures for Daniel, mostly hearts, rabbits, and little houses. The fear faded from her eyes, replaced with something warmer. The headlines shifted from scandal to admiration: the brave heiress who saved herself. Offers came from well-meaning distant relatives, but the judge made it clear, Lila's wishes would come first. When the judge finally asked Lila where she wanted to stay long-term, she looked at Daniel with steady, hopeful eyes. "I want to stay with the person who found me," she said. Daniel froze, overwhelmed. Maya squeezed his shoulder. "She trusts you," she whispered. Daniel nodded, tears pricking his eyes. "If that's what you want," he told Lila softly, "then I'll take care of you. Always." She smiled, glowing with a kind of peace she'd never known. The day Daniel officially became her guardian, Lila held his hand tightly as they walked out of the courthouse. "Does this mean I have a real home now?" she asked. Daniel knelt down, cupping her cheeks. "Yes," he said, "a home where you're loved, protected, and free." Lila wrapped her arms around him, whispering, "Thank you for finding me in the dark." Daniel hugged her back, realizing she had saved him too. Together, they stepped into a new life, one shaped not by blood or fortune, but by compassion, courage, and the simple miracle of being seen.